And then all of a sudden, my mom, she came running up to me. She said, Elizabeth, dear, you've got a little problem. You've tucked the back of your dress into your underwear.
Oh my God.
You might want to sort that out. I was mortified. I was so embarrassed. I turned around and ran and hid in the bathroom the rest of the night. Finally, after everyone had left, my mom, she came in and she said, okay, Elizabeth, you need to come out now. You can't spend your whole life in this stall. And I remember just crying and saying, I'm so embarrassed. I never want to come out again. I never want to see the family again. And she said, Elizabeth, calm down. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. I mean, first of all, it was an innocent mistake. And as long as you have clean underwear on, it's okay.
She really is.
I did. But that aside, she went on and she said, you know, men will just never understand between underwear and nylons and big poofy slips and then a big poofy dress on top of that. That is a lot of layers to maneuver. Guys, they'll just never understand that. And you know what? It's gonna be okay. Just come on out. Let's go. The hearth is loaded up. We can just go straight home. Well, I finally did come out and we did go home, and I remember just feeling like I never wanted to see my family again because I couldn't stand the thought of being that embarrassed. Well, that lasted for, I think, a grand total of a week because Utah is a surprisingly small place. I mean, just last night on the elevator, I got in and someone told me, oh, I knew your father-in-law, which I've never met my father-in-law because he's dead. And so I said, oh, that's nice. And he's in Scotland. He's buried in Scotland. He's a Scot. So, I mean, of all the randomness, there you go. And then I came down in the elevator this morning and someone said, oh, I know your grandma. And then, as you heard earlier, just lots of people know my family. So it's really hard to go anywhere and not see someone I'm related to or someone that knows me. So me going a week without seeing anyone of my family was a pretty big deal. I think it's a record still to this day. Anyways, that was kind of me at 14. Very shy, easily embarrassed, awkward. And so you can imagine having that kind of mindset, mentality, feeling, that having some stranger try to undress me and bathe me, that was well outside my comfort area. I remember grabbing hold of the buttons off my pajamas, and I remember clamping my elbows down next to my torso so that she couldn't pull them off me. And she got so frustrated with me, she finally said, okay, if you don't let me do this, I'm going to have Emmanuel come in here and he's going to rip your clothes off you and change you. I found out then that the man that had kidnapped me, well, as I knew him at that time, went by the name of Emmanuel. And I remember just being even more scared. And I remember telling this woman, okay, I can change myself and I'm not dirty. I just showered last night, but don't call him in and I can do it myself. Well, she wasn't too happy about that, but she finally said, okay, fine, you do it yourself. And she passed me this big ugly robe, told me to put it on, told me to take off all my clothes underneath. And when I had done what I had been told, she scooped up my clothes and she got up and she walked out of the tent. I just remember sitting on this upturned bucket just crying and crying and crying, being so scared and wondering what on earth was going to happen to me next, wondering if I'd ever see my family again, wondering if I would ever go to school again, wondering if I would survive. And as I sat there crying, I remember the tent door unzipping and in walked this man, and he had changed out of the dark clothes that he had kidnapped me in, and he had on a robe just like the one the woman had on, just like the one I had been forced to put on, and he knelt down next to me and he started speaking while, quite frankly, I was too emotionally distraught to listen to anything he had to say. But the more he talked, the more I started to think, wait a second, maybe I should be listening to what he's saying, because what if there's something in there that is a clue of how I can escape, or how I can send a message, or something. Maybe I should listen. Well, I only heard the last sentence that he said, which probably was the worst sentence that he said. It was, I hereby seal you to me as my wife before God and his angels as my witnesses. Oh my goodness. Of all the things that I expected to hear, once again, that was well beyond any expectation of mine. I couldn't believe it. I'm pretty sure I went into shock at that moment. And then I just remember screaming out, no, because who did he think he was? I mean, on what level did he imagine that this was ever okay? He looked at me and he said, if you ever scream out like that again, I will kill you. And I remember turning to him and saying, but I didn't say yes. You have no authority. I'm only 14 years old. I mean, you can't do that. That's not okay. And I remember going through every possible reason there was of why this wasn't okay. And to every reason that I gave, he had this same response. It was always, this is commanded of God, and it's time for us to consummate our marriage now. Well, as a 14-year-old, I was naive to many things in life. Not stupid. Oh, I do have my blonde moments, but not stupid. Just naive. And for a second, I didn't exactly know what he meant, because the word consummate was not used in my everyday vocabulary. And it took me a second, and then it dawned on me what he meant. And I remember just thinking, no, he can't do that. He cannot do that. That's not okay. There's no human being who has a soul could do that to another human being. That's just not okay. And I remember just begging and pleading with him and crying, trying to convince him that he couldn't do it, but it didn't matter. Anything I did or said, in fact, if anything, it seemed like it was encouraging to him. And finally, he physically forced me on the ground, ripped up the robe I'd just been forced to put on, and then raped me. And it wasn't a big deal to him. Well, for me, nothing could have been more shattering for me. Nothing could have been worse than being raped. I mean, I'd been raised in a very religious community, and I'd always been taught, wait until you're married, you wait until you're married, you wait until you're married. And so somehow I had connected my worth with waiting until I was married to have sex. And now that I've been raped, which, for those of you who are wondering, there is a difference between sex and rape. Sex is consensual. Rape is not. Anyways, I just felt like no matter what happened now, it didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore, because I was ruined. And even if I was rescued, nobody would ever want to have anything to do with me ever again, because I was filthy. I was disgusting. I was abhorrent. If my family knew what had happened to me, how could they want me back? If they knew, would they just say, well, shoot, good thing we had 6 kids, we still have 5 others. Because that's exactly how I felt at that moment. And I remember just feeling like the children that I'd seen on the news who had died, whose remains had been found, I felt like they were the lucky ones because nobody could hurt them now. Nobody could make them feel this shame and this disgust that I've now felt. And I just wished that that could be me because I didn't want to go on living a life feeling this way. Well, I was in so much pain physically and emotionally and mentally. I was in so much pain, I ended up falling asleep. And when I woke up, there was this man kneeling over me again, and he'd taken a skinny metal cable, and he was wrapping it around my ankle, and then he was crushing bolts into place. And I remember looking down at this metal cable, and looking to what it was connected to, and it had been looped and bolted around that first piece of metal cable that I'd seen that went through the middle of camp to both trees. And I remember it was just long enough for me to walk to the bucket that was used